Hey, running friends. Welcome to the Wrinkled Runner podcast. I'm Sherry, the Wrinkled Runner. I'm over 50 and I love to run wherever I go, but Buffalo, New York is my home. If you are looking to start to run or you're an older runner, this podcast is especially for you, so subscribe now. I love to help people get running and keep running.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me because I'm not going to run in the cemetery today where it's a little quieter. I'm going to do it outside and go towards the water here in Buffalo because we are having a really, really wonderful day. So if you've hung here this far, then you've probably had to put up with weird noises anyway, so I didn't think you would mind. Okay, so we are going to start the workout right now, 5 minutes, in whatever manner you would like to work out. Or warm up. I am running or walking. My goodness, I think the sun is frying my brain. I haven't seen it in so long. Okay. I have very squeaky shoes too, so I'm hoping that isn't interfering at all. Do you ever have, I think I must have that seasonal affective disorder because I am so excited to be out here and running that I don't even want to take the time for this warm up. I just want to start to run. So I'm very excited. I'm also studying for my CPT, Certified Personal Trainer stuff, and the particular one that I'm getting seems to be very intense, which I wasn't expecting. Hi. The scope of the things that I am learning and having to memorize, and so it's good to take a break from that and just get out. Okay, so it's really loud on this road, so I'm going to actually get off of this main road and head down a different way just so that there's not a ton of cars. So anyway, I spent most of the morning just studying and trying to learn about nutrition and all the metabolism and different things that go into this. And I can tell you, I will be much more educated in a lot of the different mechanics just of running and how different things work when I get through this, which was the point of it. So I'm happy to be getting this and doing this, but it's also kind of, anyway, much more intense than I was expecting it to be. So kudos to people who are personal trainers because they actually know what they're talking about. They're going through a lot to get that certification. So even if you don't ever use a personal trainer, but you're at the gym and you see one, just know that they're educated. They did the work to get that certification. Okay, so you have about 2 minutes left in the warm up, and that signals to me if I'm doing a warm up inside to go outside, and hopefully you are in that, being able to do that right now and get outside. Now we are going to be doing an 8-2 today. So running for 8 minutes and walking for 2 minutes. So again, like I've always been telling you, make sure you're keeping track of how your body's feeling, how your breathing is feeling, all the different things that go into what your body is doing. Look out for niggles. Look out for things that are affecting how well you're feeling. I will say, just as far as noise goes, Also, we had a really big ice storm last week, just like probably a lot of you, and we are still recovering from that. So you may hear a lot of crunching. Woo! Uh, and you may hear me falling. But yeah, there's still a lot of ice around, especially on the sides of the street that don't get a lot of sun. And it probably will be a little annoying. And so I'm sorry about that, because the crunching can be pretty loud. Things are melting, but we're still not there yet. So anyway, in 18 seconds, we're going to be starting that 8-minute run. So we're going to be running 3 times, the interval of 8 minutes run, 2 minutes walk. And, here we go. 4, 3, 2, 1, run. That's exciting in a lot of ways to only have to be running for 3 times the intervals, because that means that you're running 10 minutes the whole time. So in 10-minute sections here to add up to 30, but you're running a lot at this point. I know one of my clients is following this same regimen, and they're actually having to take some time off because they have some things going on in their lower leg from running. And so we've had to back off a bit. And if that is your case, or you get into that case, when you are able to start back up again, make sure that it's a very low, that you're not just starting right back up into like the 8-2 again. Make sure that you are going back to, I'm going to have him go back to actually the 5-3 section when he gets back into it, after he's feeling better, after this injury goes away. And I have him doing some exercises to help with that, and also referring him to a PT just to make sure that there's nothing, really dangerous or destructive going on. And when he comes back, I'm going to back him way off. And instead of 4 times a week for running, I'm only going to have him do 3 times at a lower intensity, and with the run parts being a lower duration. So that's the kind of thing that having a coach can do, even for someone who's a beginner runner, is be able to kind of guide you into just some things that you can do. If you're getting some niggles, refer you to your doctor or PT if necessary, and then kind of know where to back you up into to start over again. Because I guarantee you, with what he's feeling, if he were to just take a week off and then I were to say, okay, let's jump right back in into, he's doing the 9-1, he was up to the 9-1 part, that would be very dumb of me. And so it's something, though, that I think a lot of people, they try to do, is they try to jump right back into where they were, not jump into where they are, which then leads to a re-injury or more injury or some real damage that can take you out for a long time. So, what's better? You get better over the course of a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever, depending on the what's going on, or you get a stress fracture and you have months of rehab. I mean, I know which one I'd pick. So those are some of the things that having a coach can help you with, just to make sure that you're on this running journey, or whatever you want to call it, in the right way. with the least risk possible. You know, a coach cannot guarantee that you will never get injured, but they can work with you to figure out injuries, refer you to the proper people, and, you know, help with adjusting goals, adjusting your training in a very smart way, which is a good segue to what I'm actually going to be talking about today, which are SMART goals. And if you get my newsletter, you know that last month I really concentrated a lot on talking about SMART goals, what those are, what they look like, and what they look like for running. So we're going to talk a bit about that today. I'm just looking to see where we are. Okay. Crossing streets when you're trying to talk and trying to find your notes can be very dangerous. So it's always good to make sure that you're being safe when you're on the run. Okay. So after about 10 weeks of doing this, you are going to probably be asking yourselves, what's next? How do I keep running? What can I do to stay motivated? What are some steps that I can take? What are some ways that I can kind of increase either my duration, my mileage, my intensity, all those different things? And when you set goals that are SMART goals, capital SMART, then you will be well on your way to having all of those questions answered. So the first thing that you should focus on is, you know, what do you want to accomplish next? You're going to be running for 30 minutes at a time. Are you wanting to run for 35 minutes at a time, which would include a 5-minute warm up and a 5-minute cool down, which would take that to 40, 45. Do you want to run 50 minutes? Do you want to get to the point where you're running an hour? Do you want to get to the point where you're running 6 miles instead of wherever you end up at the end of 10 weeks? So all those things are goals that you can have, but if we just arbitrarily set goals that there's not really much thought behind them, then we're just going to get frustrated because we're not going to be able to either reach them, or on the flip side, they can be so easy that you're having to revisit goals every week because you're killing them. So those kinds of questions are ones that you should start to think about now, as you only have 2 weeks left before the ending of this program. So what I would suggest is, if you are running 3 times a week with this, my suggestion would be, don't change the 30-minute run, 5-minute warm up, 5-minute cool down. Okay, walk for 2 minutes. Don't change that if you want to add in an extra day. So if you want to go to 4 days a week as opposed to 3, then just do the same thing that you're doing now with the workouts, and up it to like 4 times a week. Do that for a few weeks and then decide, do you want to up it to 5 times a week, or do you want to up it to you're running 35 minutes and doing that 4 times a week, and then doing that for a couple of weeks? So you can see, when you set goals and with running and with training, it's all a progression. It's all building on the stuff that you've already done, are already doing, and that you want to do. Now, I've talked a bit before about signing up for a 5K, which for most of you, even though I can't see you, for most of you, that is a very doable goal. Even if you have to walk the 3.1 miles after this 10-week program, provided there aren't any, niggles or injuries or whatever, you should be able to sign up for one and train for that. And if you were to sign up for one that was in like the next month or so, I would say just keep on with the 5-minute warm up, 5-minute cool down, 30-minute run. Just do that. And you might find that just sticking with that, you're going to get further and further with your running. And, okay, wait a minute. Okay, 3, 2, 1, run. And that can be kind of your training for that. If you'd like to talk about that a little bit more, though, you can email me, Sherry@wrinkledrunner.com. And I can try and be a little more specific with what you're doing. Now, keeping up the strength training that you're supposed to be doing every week is also a good way to advance your running. You want those muscles to be strong, especially in your legs. And, we can have a bunch of imbalances in our musculature, and working those out and getting a little bit more balanced really can help us with our running, even in areas that you don't think of too often. All right, across the street. So things like, concentrating on your hips, concentrating on your glutes, not just your legs, help you to run. There's all kinds of muscle areas in your body dealing with muscles that go into running, and that go into whether your running is productive or you're kind of just running and you're not doing your body service because you're out of balance or whatever. So the strength training, the drills, those kinds of things will also help keep you running well. So let's talk specifically a little bit more about SMART. So the S in SMART stands for specific. Don't be vague with your goals. Don't say, well, I want to run like a couple times a week and maybe this long and, long enough so that I'm happy, or, something very vague is not going to sustain you for very long. Something more specific could be, I want to run a 5K in 3 months. Okay, that's pretty specific. When you have been running for a while, my advice would be to run a 5K, but aim to do the 5K in 30 minutes if you're not doing that. So that would be even more specific. And goals can be process goals, which are little goals that you're taking to get to your big all-around general goal. So if you wanted to be running a 30-minute 5K within a year, then a process goal could be, I want to run a 5K in the next 3 months. So then what do you do to take the steps to do whatever those process goals are? Again, a coach can help you with that, but there are also resources online, and I can direct you to some that are reputable if you so desire, if you are not ready to have a coach yet. So that would be a specific goal. Another specific goal, if you're not someone who wants to race, could be, I want to run a 9-minute mile. Now, depending on what your pace is currently, you may or may not have that as a process goal, or have that as a general goal. And so, that's just something that some people want to do, is run a less than 10-minute mile. There's, all sorts of timing for that. And so wherever you are at the end of the 10 weeks, mileage wise, would point to what kind of a goal for time that would make sense for you. That would be specific. So specificity deals with time and distance, races, things that are concrete. Okay, nothing vague, but something very specific that you can hone in on. And you will have process goals to get to those more global goals. And sometimes our specific goal has to wait longer than we anticipated or would be happy with. But that is all part of the process, is adjusting those goals. That is what training is for. And it's what it's all about, is adjusting your goals so that when you do get to the race or get to the time trial or whatever, that you are happy with the outcome. Okay, so the next thing would be measurable. And nowadays, it is so easy to be measurable because we can look at our data, depending on which app we're using, or whether we have an Apple Watch or a Garmin watch or whatever you're using to track your runs. We need to measure those goals because, when I had a goal several years ago to run a sub 2-hour half marathon, I relied on my data to be able to adjust some things, to be able to see if my goal was attainable, which we're going to talk about next. It just measuring and keeping track of the data that goes along with your goal. I mean, that's pretty important, actually, as I'm sure you can figure. And it's also fun, when you're having a goal, when you start goal setting and you can start measuring that. Yes, it can be frustrating. And even those of us who have run for a long time can find that a frustrating process because sometimes we have to adjust our goals down. But we're not going to know that if we don't measure our goals. Now, for some of the things that are measurable, you may not know what all the bells and whistles are for your particular measurement tool, if you have a watch or whatever. But again, there are many, many places online that you can find that can help you make sense of these measures. It's also, helps to have a running journal, like I said, keeping track and, even measuring how you're feeling. If you run a, 10-minute mile one week and it felt really good, 3, 2, 1, walk. And then the next week, you run and you're running a 10 and it doesn't feel good, then there's something else going on. And it could be an injury starting, it could be you're sick, it could be you're overtraining. There's a bunch of different things it could be, but if you're not looking at that stuff and you're not keeping track, then you're not going to know. You're not going to realize that you're, losing speed or just things aren't feeling as easy as they should on the easy runs, or, all those different things are tools that you can use to be able to check in on your training and what you're doing. So if you don't have a journal, then I suggest that you get one, or just, in the app that you're using or whatever, just look back. Yeah, in what you're tracking, and be able to look at all that and have some idea whether or not where you're heading is in the right direction or not. Okay, so the next one would be attainable. And that means that if you are doing and you're following this 10-week program, probably, unless you are like a major outlier, the goal of running a marathon in May, probably not attainable. I've been running for a long time, and I can tell you that, let's see, it's March right now. Running a marathon in May would, run 8 minutes, final run. I could probably get through it, but it would be a big disappointment as far as what it would take to get me through it. And I'd probably feel absolutely horrible and dead. And so realistically, it's not attainable for me to run a marathon in 2 months. I'm kind of in my off season now, and we're looking at a fall marathon and some races at the end of the summer, but I'm not really training for anything at the moment. So make sure that whatever goal that you are thinking about doing is attainable. And again, you can email me and just ask me, hey, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. This is my pace. This is, how far I'm getting in these runs. Is X goal, is that attainable for me, in your opinion? Now, different coaches are going to have different opinions on what's attainable or not. You will have different opinions on what's attainable for yourself or not. And, running in a way is, like I was discussing with somebody before, it's an experiment, It's a fun experiment most of the time. But it's, seeing what works for you, seeing what doesn't. But for you guys, running a 5K in May, totally attainable. Totally attainable. I'm not thinking that you'd come in first. And some of you may even have to run walk it. But if you get through this whole 10-week program and you're not injured and you're running the full 30 minutes, you can do a 5K. Totally attainable. So make sure whatever your goals, even going forward, a year from now, 2 years from now, as you start running more and start being more confident, just make sure those goals are attainable, because it's going to be frustrating if your goals are constantly unattainable. There are always going to be times that we want a goal and we want to meet a goal, and we feel confident in it, but it's kind of out there for us. And sometimes that's not going to be attainable. And that's where, every few weeks you kind of reassess where you are in the process and decide, okay, is this still attainable? Am I getting the runs in that I need to reach this goal? So assessment is part of the attainable factor, because what might be
Totally attainable in 1 week might not be attainable as time goes on, just because of life happening.
So that's why I'm saying that you should make sure that that goal is attainable. Okay, sorry guys, I had to check on something because I thought I turned off my mic, which I would be very unhappy about. Okay, so next on the list is realistic, which kind of goes hand in hand with attainable. But you have to make sure that these goals are realistic. Again, it goes with, the concept of running a marathon after just starting to run. Probably not realistic, but a realistic goal could be that you want to run a marathon in a year and a half, 2 years, and that a lot of that will depend on the time you can put into training and all that. But making sure that these are goals that you can do, and checking in with your life. And sometimes being realistic and being attainable can go hand in hand, but also realistic also speaks more to not just what you can do physically, but based on your life. So, I have 5 children, but they're all married. They're, not around. I spend a lot of time with them and my grandchildren, but I also have a lot of downtime. So realistically, yes, I can put the time in to train for a marathon, even though you might get to a point in your running where a marathon distance is attainable. You have to look at your life, and is it realistic that you can put in the work and the training needed for that particular goal? So even though something might be physically attainable, you have to make sure it is realistic enough in your particular life circumstances. Now, sometimes when we have a goal that is pretty attainable, but we're looking at our life and saying it's not really realistic for us, sometimes that means just looking at your life and where you're at, and is there some time management that we need to address? Is there something that we can do to make the time for these goals to be realistic? When I was at the run show in the beginning of February, I listened to a talk by Jackie Hunt. I want to say it's Brolsma. She is an amputee, and she is the Guinness World Record holder for running marathons consecutive days. So she ran 104 marathons in 104 days, which is unbelievable. Now, she also has children, and one of the things she had to do was make sure that her child care was covered through, every day of running a marathon every day. So when you look at your goals, what might seem unrealistic might be realistic if you can get these obstacles out of your way, as far as not allowing you to put the time in or the energy or the research or whatever it is for your particular goal. And the T part of SMART goals is timely. So you have to put a time limit on these goals. Otherwise, it probably isn't going to happen. So I'll tell you what does happen. 3, 2, 1. Okay, 2-minute walk. I'll tell you what does happen. Now, I'll try to talk louder because I'm by a highway. So hopefully you can hear me. If I were to say, well, I'm going to run an ultra someday, what happens is time goes by and you keep pushing it off, and you don't have a plan because, it doesn't matter if you do it next week or 3 years from now. You said someday, right? But my plan, my ultra marathon goal, is to run one before I'm 60. So I'm 55 and a half. And so I know I have 4.5 years to sign up and train for an ultra marathon. Now, because I haven't run a marathon since 2019, my process goal to get there is to run a marathon this year, probably run another marathon in 2024, maybe in the spring, and then start looking into which ultra to run, how to train for it, things like that. So my goal has an end date. And that is my suggestion to you, is make sure that your goal has an end date. You know, you want to run a 5K by June 2023. And then after that, you want to run a 5K in 30 minutes or less by December of 2023. Or, you know, you want to run 4 miles within an hour by September. Okay, cool down 5 minutes by September of 2023. Whatever your goal happens to be, give yourself an end date. And you know, that can change. You can decide that you're not quite there yet. That's part of the adjustment and the assessment. But if we at least have an end date, those adjustments can be made, and they can be made intelligently. You know, maybe by December 2023, you can't run a 30-minute 5K. But then you can adjust it to say, okay, by May of 2024, I want to be able to run a 30-minute or less 5K. And you just keep adjusting and assessing and making process goals and, you know, keep going forward. Write these things down. Make sure that you have them accessible to you so that you can check things off. I don't know what that is, but they actually have done a study where checking things off actually is very motivating, very satisfying, and it gets you through your to-do list. And so as you make these goals, write them down, put them on your fridge, you know, get a 5K training plan, get a 10K training plan. If you're already running a 5K by the end of these 10 weeks, you know, look at a plan that gets you from 5K to 10K. These resources are available. These things, these, you know, setting goals and having things that are attainable and doable with the internet these days. I just caution you that it's reputable, and, you know, that it's not, you know, somebody selling you a $100 plan to get you from a 5K to a 10K. But, you know, go to Runner's World, go to some of these running sites that are well respected, and look at their training and see what next steps that you can take to keep you running and keep you motivated, so that when you're not motivated, which you're not going to be every day, if you have goals, then sometimes that can kick in the discipline that we need to keep reaching those goals and keep setting those goals when we don't actually have the motivation to do them. So if you have any questions about your goals, next steps, try and give me as much information about your running as you can, and I will try to give you a little bit more guidance and direction with the more specific area or the more specific information that I have about you, okay? So next week is 9/1. If you are running this 8/2, then in three times this week, you can up it to 4 if you wish. If you're doing it 4 times, you can up it to 5, and some of you may be already doing it for 5. Remember to keep track of your body. Write down your information and your distances and all that good stuff. Get your warm-up ready for next week and get your strength training in. Now, one note about our live run, which is going to be on March 14th. It is a Tuesday, March 14th, and we're going to do that at 1 p.m. And hopefully our weather here in Buffalo, I won't be running in a blizzard. You never know. But that is going to be our live run. And I'm going to have to do a lot of research into that this week. I don't know that I'll be able to do that within the podcast realm. It may be like a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live kind of thing. And you could just listen to it while I run. I also will be recording it and then putting it through the podcast. And then also if I have to do it by YouTube or whatever, then I'll also put the visual up there as well. So we have 31 seconds left in our cool down. Boy, that went by really fast today. It just feels so good out here to be out, even though it's only like, I think 45 or whatever, but it feels really, really darn good. Okay, so 15 minutes, or no, sorry, 12 seconds. And I will hope to hear you next week. You may email me with questions, and thanks for joining me, guys.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you know another runner who could benefit from today's topic, go ahead and share it. Do you have any running questions? You can ask me. Email me at sherry@wrinkledrunner.com, and if I can't answer your question, I will do the research to find the answer and share it with you. The questions I get from listeners like you help me develop episodes, so please don't be shy. You can sign up for my once-a-month newsletter using the link provided so that you can have all the Wrinkled Runner resources from the past month all in one place. I also have opened up my virtual coaching in addition to coaching one-on-one with those in the Buffalo, New York area. So head to my coaching page on the Wrinkled Runner website, which I will, of course, link to, and check out how we may be able to work together. Until next Monday, thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the run.